My name is Kirsten. I'm a mom, wife, friend, and business owner. And the question I get asked most often is, how do you do it all? So I figured I'd come on here to set the record straight. Contrary to what others believe, I'm not a super mom. I don't do it all. I only do what is absolutely necessary, and I don't stress about the rest. And how do I decide what's absolutely necessary? Well, that's what this video is about. If you're new here, this is a space for the cozy moms to collectively learn how to consciously love ourselves and our little ones. Today, I'm sharing the 5 low-stress systems that keep my life together that I can always rely on to transform the chaos into calm. Before we get into the 5 systems, I do want to put out a disclaimer that none of these systems are going to work if you don't give yourselves grace. If there's one thing that motherhood taught me, it's how to give myself unconditional grace. I cannot hold myself responsible for external factors that disrupt my day. Sometimes shit hits the fan, and while I can't control the chaos, I can control how I respond. And my response is to give myself the space to acknowledge that things aren't going the way I want them to, and adjust my expectations. It's okay to be affected by what's happening in your family, in your community, and in the world. It's okay if your day completely falls apart. These 5 systems are designed to support you exactly where you are. My first system rewires how we understand to-do lists. It's called the Essential 3. Before becoming a mom, my daily to-do list had 20 to 30 items, and I would go to sleep every night knowing exactly what I was going to do the next day. But as a mom, I'm already doing 50 tasks every single day, so adding another 20 on top of that is highly unrealistic. Not to mention the reality that no one day is the same when you're a mom. So if I plan what I'm going to do every day the night before, I'm likely going to have to change my plan on the actual day when unexpected things occur and change the entire course of my day. This is why the Essential 3 is so much more realistic. Once my baby and I have done our morning routine every day and I have a sense of the temperature of the household, I make a list of 3 non-negotiable tasks that need to get done that day. For me, that's usually 1 work task like responding to emails, 1 household task like cooking, and 1 personal or family task like hair care. And I pick these tasks from a longer to-do list that I continuously add to throughout the week. I made a YouTube video last year about how I organize the longer to-do list in my bullet journal, so you should check that out if you're interested. I don't have time to bullet journal anymore, but I still use that same method in the planner I bought for this year. The focus of the Essential 3 isn't about getting things done, it's about protecting your energy. It gives you the agency to decide your priorities and the perspective to realize that the world won't end if you don't check everything off your to-do list. It also feels really great to actually be able to complete the 3 tasks you prioritize. You end your days feeling fulfilled because you're actually tending to the tasks that matter most to you on any given day. My second system takes us a step deeper. It's called the reflection of intention. As women, we're socialized to get shit done, and that can convince us that our worth is tied to how much we produce. So if we're not able to get as many things done, that must mean that we are less valuable. But in actuality, our mere existence is enough. We don't need to do anything to prove ourselves. We can just be. I think it's so important for women who step into motherhood to remember this, and I get that it's easier said than done. So if you need help to remember, look no further than your babies. Our children love us unconditionally, just as we are. They couldn't care less about what we do. What matters more is who we are. This is why I choose to ground myself in my intentions. When I find myself feeling guilty about not completing a task on my to-do list, I pause and I consider my intention behind that task. Let's say I didn't have the energy to make my baby a home-cooked meal for a couple of days. What is my intention behind feeding my baby? To nourish her. If I buy nutritious food from the store as a substitute, does that still meet my intention? Yes. Does my baby care whether the food I feed her is homemade or store-bought? No. All she cares about is that she gets to eat her meal with me by her side. The reflection of intention shifts me out of capitalist narratives and back into my humanity, which is the most powerful place to exist in. It's a reminder that how we do things matters even more than what we do. It transforms a task into an extension of my values, guiding me towards the most loving version of myself. My third system might be the most radical of them all. I call it this gots to go. As a task-oriented list lover, I'm not gonna lie, this was the hardest system to implement. I used to be the girl that went to sleep after checking every single thing off her to-do list. And while that practice was incredibly satisfying, it was also attached to the idea that not completing a task was a sign of failure. I was treating myself like a machine rather than a human being, because humans have experiences that can impact their ability to complete everything on their to-do list. I feel like becoming a mom and raising a human being reminded me of the ways I forget to treat myself like a human being, which is why I decided to start This Gots to Go. Whenever I feel overwhelmed, I look at my to-do list and cross one thing off. And I don't mean crossing it off to come back to it later, I mean completely deleting it from my orbit. When my baby was born, I wanted to raise her to be trilingual, to speak English, French, and sign ASL. But my partner doesn't speak French or sign, so I felt like the entire responsibility of language skills was on me. It was too much weight to carry alone. So instead, I decided to focus only on fluency in English and conversational French and ASL, which is so much more doable. I have no plans anymore to teach her advanced French or ASL in the future. If I want her to become fluent later on, I could always enroll her in classes in a year or two. This Gots to Go is about recognizing and respecting our capacity as human beings. The world does not provide parents with the necessary support systems to raise children, and it's unrealistic to expect parents to bear that entire load alone. As moms, it's important that we model boundaries for our babies so they learn that their parents are human beings too. My fourth system is about providing my days with a hidden safety net. It's called blocking buffers, aka blocking out buffer time before and after each scheduled task in your day. Because let's be honest, time flows completely differently in motherhood. I remember a time when I would schedule my days to the minute. But when you introduce a baby into the mix, that level of rigidity is a fast track to overstimulation. Baby transitions simply do not happen on adult timelines. So now I always plan for 3 times the amount of time I think a task is going to take. In addition to buffer time for my baby, it's also important that I set aside buffer time for me. I'm not the same person I used to be. Motherhood takes so much from me, and at the end of my shift with my baby, once I transition her to her father, I have barely any energy left. My brain needs more time to process basic functions, and my body moves slower, so naturally tasks take longer. I now add a 30-minute buffer to every task, and I try to always underestimate my capacity. Sometimes this looks like planning the bare minimum each day, but at least that way I'm not saying yes to a bunch of things I can't actually take on. And if I feel like I can handle more on a particular day, I can always add a task. For me, blocking buffers is a necessary force of protection against sensory overload. Prioritizing a regulated nervous system is one of the most important practices I maintain in my motherhood journey. It is what makes my home feel peaceful, and peace in our family matters so much more than arbitrary time constraints. Also, if there's one thing I've learned in motherhood, it's that slow and gentle transitions are always worth the wait. My fifth and final system might be the most uncomfortable one to practice, especially in a society that prides itself on self-reliance. It's called "It Takes a Village." I often hear people throw around that phrase, "It takes a village to raise a child." But how many of us actually practice what we preach? I know that the Western part of the world is deeply conditioned by individualism, and that can make it really difficult to ask for help or even to accept help. But the truth is, raising a child on your own is simply not sustainable. It is actually a trap that often leads to isolation, depression, and resentment. To be clear, I don't believe that the responsibility lies on moms to build their village. I believe the world needs to build support systems for mothers within the foundation of our society, considering parents are literally raising future generations. But until the world gets on board, I do hope that moms open themselves to the possibility of a village. Sometimes it can be as simple as leaning on the baby's other parent. Before I gave birth, my partner and I planned a schedule where each of us had equal shifts with our baby. Because I breastfed, that counted as double time, considering how much energy breastfeeding takes. So my partner technically spent more time with our baby. For the first 3 months, while he was on parental leave, I mostly only spent time with my baby when I was breastfeeding. Once my partner went back to work, I did 10-hour shifts with my baby on weekdays, and the moment he came home until the moment he left for work the next day, and for the entire weekend, my partner was with our baby, with the exception of breastfeeding time. times. He also fed her my pumped breast milk on weekends, so I would get the whole day off. Except for night feeds, since she just slept better at night when breastfeeding. I'm sharing what my partner and I did because I think it's so important that moms expect dads to be just as present when it comes to raising babies. And I want moms to know it's actually possible to have more equal parenting dynamics. If dads work, they can take over as the primary caregiver as soon as they're done with work. If moms breastfeed, dads can support that journey by managing pumping responsibilities, tracking nipple care, or protecting mom's sleep and meals. I'm so tired of dads taking for granted how much moms do every single day, instead of taking the initiative to see how they can step in as the primary parent. I just want moms to know that they deserve more and they are allowed to expect more from their partners. If you need your partner to be more present but don't know where to start, I recommend taking baby breaks. Just 4 hours every single day where you are not responsible for anything to do with the baby. And this is completely outside your eating and sleeping hours. Use your baby breaks to pursue hobbies, get work done, or practice self-care. And no matter how much you think your partner needs you, do not step in. You'd be surprised by how much these 4 hours away can impact your well-being. And you might also be surprised by how capable your partner actually is when it comes to caring for your baby. Outside of my baby's other parent, since my baby isn't comfortable being with others yet, I love leaning on family and friends for household chores and meal prep. I created a mother care kit that helped me organize this, so I'm going to link that in the description below in case you're interested. It Takes a Village is about moving away from individualism and towards community care. The truth is, human beings were meant to exist in interconnected ecosystems of love, support, and shared labor. So why deny ourselves that? At the end of the day, our homes are meant to be a reflection of the world we want to see. And I believe that we deserve a peaceful world. So let's drop the unrealistic expectations placed onto mothers and choose to protect our peace instead. These 5 systems are not about being perfectly organized, they're about stepping back into our humanity. They're tools to reach for in times of chaos, empowering us to ground ourselves in what matters most. Thank you for sharing space with me today. If you want to learn more about how to love your motherhood journey, I'd recommend checking out these videos next. I'll see you soon. Bye!